I called this the highs and lows of going EV, and I myself have driven EV for a long time. And over the course of the evening, I will go through a bit of a journey that we've been on to get to this point now, where the consumer experience is what it is, and the highs and lows of EV charging can be clearly seen. But a really kind friend of mine has made a much better introduction than I could ever do. So I'm going to press play.
Sara Sloman.
Always the highlight of the show, to be honest. Probably most professional one out of the lot.
A force to be reckoned with and authority on all things EV. Some say her heartbeat is measured in kilowatt hours. She sleeps upside down like a bat and that she has managed to touch MC Hammer. All we know is that she's one of the slickest presenters around. The Barbara Cox Woman of the Year can get herself into and out of tight spots with her ingenuity and isn't afraid to get her hands or bottom dirty. When it comes to payments and software, she's the one you want in your corner, using her extensive industry knowledge to influence key decision makers at local and national level.
She is one of the most eloquent people that I've ever met.
She always brings such great energy to all the events that we see her at.
Do you like spreadsheets?
I do love a spreadsheet. I have to organise things and make sure everybody does what they say they're going to do when they're going to do it.
I feel like I stumble over every word after listening to her really eloquent introduction.
She's just a fantastic addition to the crew.
It wasn't that bad. He warned me it was going to be horrendous because he's had the opportunity to work with us for the last 3 or 4 years, so he's got a lot of B-roll. He's got a lot of outtakes, so I was fearful for that. So what that displays there is what I was talking about earlier about having very much a community spirit. This is about growing the EV community, the clean air brigade. It's not necessarily about saving the world in one foul swoop, because we all know that EVs can't do that on their own. It was really nice to be invited here. I grew up near Cirencester in Cricklade pretty much my whole life. I've never really moved away. I think Bath is the furthest I've lived. I've just moved back to the area. I now live in Charfield, wonderful community. And before that, I was up at Nymwich and Hampton just for a few years with my daughter. So it's just really nice to be back in the space. And when Mike said, oh, there's a slot come along, that was great, because I'm actually familiar with the Wootton Area Climate Action Network because I was part of trying to get the Greenway group going. And we've got someone else in our audience, my dear friend Verity, who's come, who was part of sort of seeing if that funding was possible between the councils. And that project is nowhere near dead, but it also is still needed. So please do believe me when I say multimodal is everything, transport hierarchy is everything. But if I may indulge for just a moment and take us back, we have got a shortage, massive shortage, a huge skills gap of people who are interested in environmentally focused, sustainable careers. Traditionally, they don't pay that well, is one of the major stumbling blocks. But more than that, people don't know what they could do with their lives after. They don't see the value. They can't see the feeling. They can't see the feeling it brings when you watch a piece of infrastructure be developed. They can't see the feeling that when you secure some central government funding and that gets translated into more jobs, more cycle parking, more bus lanes, more connected transport, more rural and urban interconnectivity, reductions in bus fares for those who can't afford it. That's what feels good. And I think we've all got a bit of a collective responsibility to really get that message out there and inspire people who are thinking about what they're going to do with their lives. Is it time for them to retrain? Is there something more that they could do? But it's been an amazing trajectory, and one of very few people who always knew that sustainable transport was going to be important to them. And the reason is it's so emotive. It's your life. You're really asking someone to change the way they live, and the mandate that's coming forward that says we are not to sell any diesel or petrol vehicles after 2030 has caused ripples through communities, because that's a big, big change. There's science involved, there's statistics involved, there's appetite involved, there's finance involved. It's not a cheap game from the outset, particularly if you're looking to buy an EV and maintain it. There's many other ways. So I was inspired to come because for me, EV is part of the transport hierarchy. I want you to walk and cycle and lift share and get the bus. But if you can't, I'd really like it to be an EV, particularly if you're over 5 to 10,000 miles a year. That's the real point at which it impacts. If you're someone who barely drives, this may not be for you just yet. You've got plenty of time. But for those of us like me who do 25,000 miles a year in a car, let alone what I do on the train, imagine if I was driving a non-compliant polluting diesel at this point. That would not be okay. And I have a wonderful anecdote from a very anti-EV, very good friend of mine who's like, oh, so you want me to give up my car? And I said, well no, because you only do you cycle into Bristol every day, so you're not causing anybody any air pollution concerns there. And on top of that, you just drive on the motorway network for sort of 5,000-6,000 miles a year. Imagine if someone like me bought your car secondhand because you chose to go EV because it was the right thing to do. That's not the right thing to do. That's 25,000 miles of diesel that wasn't happening before. So no, I'd like you to stay exactly as you are and continue to spread the good word about multimodal transport, actually. But for me, it started when I was... Well, if I say that, you'll work out how old I am. Okay. It started when I got an amazing job at Wiltshire Council in the economic regeneration team. And it was my job to go around farms and just check that the people there were not... that they were being supported enough and they weren't being under too much pressure from the financial stimulus that was not there. So it was really difficult to have that job, and very quickly I put my hand up to a wonderful boss, Tim Martianson. I hope he's out there somewhere. And he spotted something in me that hadn't come across their path before, and that was that passion for the community. So they popped me into a whole new department which changed my life. So I went to road safety. So it's all changed so much. But what's not changed is the people element. And that's what really inspires me. It's just, what's your problem? How can we help you with it? And I've sort of climbed the ladder. We had some fantastic opportunities after the Wiltshire Council road safety team. It was funny, actually, to be training the trainers who then went on to do National Standard. Do you remember National Standard? You got a little triangular badge if you were able to turn left and not die on a bike. And that was ultimately that. And I think it sparked something in me about wanting licenses. So as soon as I could, I got a moped. And the moped was so that I could ride to Swindon from Cricklade and get the next job. And I just so enjoyed working with people, but it was just that environment piece was missing. And then that magical moment, what are you going to do at university? What are you going to do? And I got reasonably good grades, but I was torn between the arts and the science. And that's where the people element comes in. So I chose geography because you can blend the people stuff with the science stuff. And I was really good at the science stuff and rubbish at the people stuff. Philosophy failed massively. Big fat E literally failed it. So I had to go down the environmental science route. And that taught me about climate change. It taught me about how do you turn physical money into demonstrable projects that influence people's lives, and the policies and planning that goes along the road with that, and how long it all takes and how much it costs in the trillions to get something done. And you have to go through the processes. And I quite enjoy that because at least you know what you're up against. So yeah, the nice combination led me to a position where I could represent. And when I was 18, I represented the UK at a WWF competition, not the wrestling. Which is what everyone thought. It was the World Wildlife Fund, of course, paid for by Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream, the very people. And they shipped us off. And it was like, I don't know if you've ever seen SOS, the SAS training program, where they get put through absolute hell. In my teenage brain, it was like that. So you weren't allowed a smartphone with you. You were told to bring your passport and 2 outfits, but they didn't tell you what the outfits were for. And anyway, long story short, we woke up in Rotterdam. So they'd put us on this coach with the blacked out windows, and they took us over to Holland, and they said, right, you're going to be put through 48 hours of training to see who is up for the ultimate prize, which is to go to the Arctic to do surveys for the next year, fully paid. And I can write policy and I can affect change, and that means the world to me. And you might be thinking, hang on, so what the hell has this got to do with EV? It all started in Bristol. We put our very first charger into Bristol. We should be very proud of the West of England. The world looks at us. I have a global job now, and I'm telling you, the world looks at Bristol. We had the largest completely zero-emission fleet that has ever run at the time in the UK. We had the world's first European-sourced, solar-panelled EV charging system outside a leisure centre for the community. We did everything right, and the world looked at us. And I jumped on that and had an amazing opportunity to host a dignitary from Holland. And we drove around North Somerset, Bath and North East Somerset, South Gloucestershire, Bristol City Centre, and we showed off what we were so proud of. We were so proud of that infrastructure. That charging infrastructure was second to none as far as we were concerned. 2 months later, I'm over in Holland going, oh goodness me, this infrastructure is something else. You know, obviously bikes have full priority. Chargers are normal. There is no price differentiation between one charger to the next. You're all the same. To them, there is no market competition. It's just competition. And it's pence and pounds as opposed to what we've got, which is 10p, 20p, 30p sometimes in the difference of what you pay for your EV charging. So I looked to Europe especially to learn. But then we had this wonderful opportunity to just build. Just build. The UK government had changed from what was called Go Ultra Low West to the Office of Low emission vehicles. And then it became the Office of Zero Emission Vehicles. And then we saw the climate crisis being declared across different local authorities. And that was really the fiscal stimulus we needed, because that's someone saying, we think there's a crisis and we should be proud of the Green Party in Bristol. They did it first. They were the first in the country. And it's a massive showstopper because it's again, colours to the mast. We're saying we want to do the right thing here locally for clean air. I think that's really powerful. Living in Kingswood, as a few of us did, or I did, you do, it's a tough one. Really nice little local community. And I was walking my daughter to school in 2017, which is when I became the neighbours of these guys, and holding my daughter's hand, chatting away, noticing that the vehicles were guffawing their smoke into her face. I'm taller, I didn't notice. The buses that go to the secondary, she could hold my hand now, by the way, she's much taller than me. But then we go to the secondary school where the buses are ploughing through the village, and again, just diesel fumes are visible. Children are getting sort of afraid of being bumped by the big buses. That's not the message I want these kids to grow up with. I don't want them to see this and hate it. I want them to think that's how I could get to work. Charfield Station, controversial. I've got a car park next to my garden now. Didn't expect that. Should have read the planning documents more carefully. But I don't care. I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because that's mobility. That's my opportunity to say, Charfield's a great place to live and you can work in Bristol if you want. Or the other way around, whatever you want to do. The schools still want to have their children moving to and from the sites sustainably. But you can't help but notice how many EVs there are. They are creeping in. And I'm very pleased to see there's now, 2 or 3 charges down by the library in Wootton. That's not where I thought they were going to go. I thought they were supposed to go up by the new build at the doctor's surgery or something. It's very confusing. But just for my own interest, how many of us have tried, doesn't mean you have to own it, have tried an EV? Just a quick show of hands for my benefit. And only, yeah, let's go for own next. That's about 50% of you have tried, and the ownership is much, much less, about a tenth. Me too. But yeah, much, much less. And I think there's a big reason for that. The question I get asked a lot is why? Why is that? Everybody who tries them thinks they're great fun. They're so fun. It's a complete big grin, amazing opportunity to be zooming around. And I think it's a price point issue. It's a total cost of ownership concern. So obviously the ticket price is really high on an EV if you're going to buy it outright. It's pretty intimidating. But then when you break it down to the monthly cost, it becomes a lot easier to digest, especially if like 83% of the current population who own an EV can charge at home. So we're in a really interesting position where energy companies are giving away chargers if you switch to their EV tariff. Banks are loaning money for EVs so that they can have a better chance to give out their packages and keep somebody in a financial deal. The difficulty is we're just people who move around ourselves. What if you're a van driver? What if you're an EHGV driver or a fleet owner? That's my world. So whilst I love passenger vehicles and whilst I'm inspired by the technology, my life is fleet. My life is the lifeblood of the country. How do we keep products moving around? How do we make sure that their bottom line is impressive? And now we're asking them to give up their diesel, to not go hydrogen, and to in fact go EV. And that's a really big ask. Even today, I was up in Birmingham at the NEC. There's a big event on called EV Charge Live. It's twinned with Solar and Storage Live, and 15,000 people were through the door. We had lots of questions, of course, about what about hydrogen, blah, blah. And I'm hoping we'll go to Q&A after this, because it's so interesting to hear what people are thinking. But when we move into the Q&A session, I do want you to just know holds barred. This is fun. This is a community. We're here for each other. So if I don't know the answer, I won't lie to you. I will give you what I know or what I believe in, and then we can strip it apart and fact find it after that. So I hope the picture I'm painting of myself is one where I'm here to help. I hope it's of someone who's done well doing that. I'm proud of where we are. We've put the UK on the map big time. We've created history with our projects. We spent a lot of government money. Amazing. I'm joking. We spent a lot of government money for a reason, because then it brings private investment into our country. That's what it's for. Now I work in payments now, and it won't surprise you to know that it's a trillion dollar industry. All that money that gets spent on wet fuel is projected to be spent on electric fuel. It's a lot. And it's just got to the point where it's happening. I'm sure the government will move the goalposts at some point, but it's just out of control now. It's all going towards EV, and that's what we've kind of got to get to the point of being real about. So I kind of like to take things just a little step further and just prove it. I think 2022, I got my motorcycle license. Looking at all the flooding of the market, there's so much choice now out there for electric bikes. Anything from a scooter replacement at sort of £4,000 or £5,000, right up to the mega thing that I bought, or leased, more to the point. So there's so much choice, and I love the motorbike concept because it ties in that individual, I want to be on my own and drive in my own car thing, but you're on a bike, and then you're not causing congestion. And the pence per mile on an electric motorbike is like 1p on a bad day. But my motorbike friends tell me it's more like 7, 15, sometimes even 20p per mile on petrol, depending on what they ride and how they ride it. But I had this wonderful opportunity to tap into the Guinness World Record world. So my partner, Sam Clark, he's also with me on the EV Cafe from that little intro video. There's 5 of us developed this wonderful community where any business can come and ask real questions about how do they transition their fleet? What does it really cost? Because we're not there to sell anything, and that's the beauty of it. The whole thing is funded by other businesses who feel the same, so they allow us to do these fun things in the community, which I really appreciate. We had a challenge to test these electric vehicles. I'm going to play you a little video.
I'm Sam Clark.
And I'm Sara Sloman.
And we're about to attempt a Guinness World Record for the longest journey on a single charge on an electric motorbike. We're about 10 miles short still. What?
So this bike is one of a kind. That wheel is very special, cleverly engineered and designed, and we're going to be putting it through its paces.
The Verge TS Pro, the world's most advanced electric motorcycle, featuring unique architecture. The motor, being in the wheel, allows for the body to be free for just the battery pack. And more battery equals more range.
We've got a good chunk of miles in, and the stacy charge is still looking good, so far so good.
After many changeovers between Sam and Sarah, night fell upon London, bringing new challenges.
Confident?
Yeah, definitely. However, we are entering into tiredness, greasy roads. We have survived 12 hours of riding so far. This just shows that a bike like this can do anything, and I feel really proud of that.
There was jubilance in the air as Sarah rolled into what she thought would be the finish line.
Whee! Where are we going to do the champers?
How was it? How was the final stint?
It was tough. I think I've wanted this my whole life.
However, Richard had a bombshell to drop.
So, on what it's polled and what we've managed to capture, we're about 10 miles short still. What?
Wow.
Okay, that's just marvellous, isn't it?
I'll tell you how far we go, because we did do it. That last 10 miles was just hell. It was raining, the wind was coming in. We were so tired, because anyone that rides knows that it's a real focus game. It's not like driving in the car. God, my car's a robot on wheels. I'm doing everything I'm legally allowed to do. I can take calls, I can listen to podcasts, I can put it in autopilot. No, not a moment's lapse of concentration during that time. And what I wanted to prove was this particular bike. So this is it's called the Verge motorcycle. They wanted people to buy it who were in their sort of, let's call them executives, late 40s, early 50s, got a bit of money to burn. They're not planning on riding it every day, but if they wanted to, they could. And this is, again, on the mission of replacing individual cars. Think of your classic BMW series that goes in and out of London every day. Why do that? When a vehicle like that has extreme regenerative braking opportunity, your heart's in your mouth. You so want the technology to perform as you thought it would. The person's question is about an MG, and it's charged predominantly at home, 3 years old, and there is no visible way of stopping the charge at 80%. Now, lots of people say you mustn't charge an electric vehicle over 80%. That's really referring to rapid charging. So it's a precaution that manufacturers very cleverly, and I'm all for it, scientific test and learn and all, they put it out there to say, do not charge your car above 80%. The studies that are coming forward are really confident that you're not going to kill your battery, you're not going to hurt it, and actually it benefits the battery to charge nice and slowly to 100%, maybe once a week. So as long as you're home charging, you don't have to worry. Oh, even better, solar integrated EV charging. Come on, that's excellent. And just to reassure everybody there on that whole battery thing, Manufacturers have a set limit. So if they are required to recall that battery, or they feel like there's an error with the car because the driver keeps reporting so, it's around 70%. Some of them are 69, some of them are 72. When it reaches that point, I think the media want you to think that it just goes to landfill, but it absolutely does not. We all remember the reduce, recycle, reuse thing. This is even better than that. It's just plonk it somewhere else. It's just reuse it as it stands. So they repurpose it into a sort of, imagine a shipping container. And I've stood in these with my own eyes. Nottingham's got awards for it. You stand inside it, it's got 7 or 8 different batteries that used to be in your car, and now it's powering the refuse collection vehicles that go out every single day. Absolutely fantastic. It's not even recycled, it's just reused. Great question. Only if they just have considerable complaints. So if lots and lots of people say, I can't get my car charged to 100% anymore. When I first bought it, it said 250 miles. Now it always says 190. Must be something wrong with it. Recall. He is not wrong. So luckily, I've been in, thanks to my parents, I've been in the caravan club realm my whole life. Huge respect for the caravan community, absolutely love it. Such a joy, such a precious joy that you won't know unless you've done it. Anyway, nostalgia aside, vehicles are, we do this thing every year called the EV Rally. I didn't touch on it earlier, but the EV Rally is about proving the art of the possible. We get prototype vehicles, we get all sorts of new manufacturers coming forward to be part of it, because we put those things through their paces. This year, we had a prototype pickup truck that also had towing capabilities. And next year, we're actually thinking about doing EHGV and towing only, just to kind of really hit this point home. Beautiful infrastructure is going in across the country. Very few charge point operators are taking a thoughtful approach to this. Mostly it's been about the passenger car. Now, you've got 4 incredible grid-serve hubs, 4, I think minimum 4 across the country. They're the ones with the big, beautiful canopies and the big shops, and they're stunning. Then you've got another personal favourite of mine, Osprey, who do the in and out bays, particularly on the M5, M6. So again, great charge point operator to know, because you're supposed to drive in, block the other bay. They're happy for you to do that. You don't have to unhitch. Now, just last weekend, a Tesla supercharging hub, there was, because Teslas can tow, there are many cars coming forward who can tow, but of course your range is gonna nosedive, but comparably to diesel and petrol actually. So it's not the end of the world. It's a similar sort of cost of towing. But you're absolutely right. It's a tough one. There's lots of ways through it, which including, the drive through, whether or not we open EHGV bays to towing caravans for recharging. Potentially, they are technically public, so no reason why not. The price will be the same. So I think the future's bright for towing, because it's always been on the agenda since day one. So I have hope.
What about the range anxiety?
Of when you're towing?
Yeah.
Well, every vehicle I see coming forward has a longer and longer range. First of all, we had the range anxiety of the vehicles. I feel like we kind of answered that, and then it was the charger anxiety, which you'll experience. Will I find a charger that I can tow my caravan through? Well, maybe. And then there's obviously the payment anxiety piece too. How would I pay for it? What would it cost? Is it private or public? So you've got a myriad of issues when you're towing a caravan. And worse, my pet hate is when you get there, why can't you charge? Because these beautiful places we love are rural and their connections are poor, meaning they're not going to pay for a grid upgrade that you can charge your car overnight in the campsite. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, the unhitching thing is a real tough one. I think it depletes the battery. Is it 2/3? I don't actually know, but I remember listening to a podcast and thinking, oh, that makes it expensive. But I looked it up, and it was pretty comparable to towing with petrol or diesel. So it's an amazing podcast, a caravan person who hates EVs, but he's trying to love them. So he's got all the stats for you. And there's this amazing family who I just adore, who go around Sweden in they tow a massive, one with the double wheels, like an 8-berth caravan with a Tesla. And they're living their best life. So they're not worried. Where it needs to go. Away from here. Yeah, it's a tough one. I've seen it in fleet yards. I mean, the batteries are massive, so the length of the vehicle is often the battery. It's not like you can just sort of pop over and swap it out. We're talking cranes and forklifts and engine and high voltage situation. So really, that's not going to be viable, no. But yeah, I think the message is get destination charging sorted, and then the range anxiety wouldn't be a problem, because you're probably going to get there in 150 miles. Yeah, it's fun. So the question was, should we be worried about rare earth metals that go into the batteries? So I love a bit of data. According to mining.com, in 2022, 34% of global cobalt mining was for EV production. That's quite a lot, obviously. 59,000 tonnes was mined for EV, 26,000 tonnes was for smartphones, and 16,000 tonnes was for laptops. The rest of it is industrial processes, super alloys, and chemical production. Now, I went to the same website again on the same day just to see what the other data said, and they even called it in their own news article, because of course they're pro-mining, because it's mining.com, that's why I did it like that. The future is gloomy, because there's less and less mining going on for EVs regarding those particular rare earth metals. So I thought that was really encouraging, because a lot of EV manufacturers are moving away from cobalt altogether. We're going to see a rise in solid-state batteries, which have got 3 times the range. They charge a lot faster. They're more reusable. But the guy next to me was an investment banker on the train. He didn't enjoy my presentation creation. You could tell he was looking at me like, who is this person? And I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but for the people who can't, bottom right is an oil field in California where they have absolutely obliterated anything that lives. Bottom left is indeed a cobalt mine where they have obliterated absolutely anything that lives. Top right, you can't see, is an oil shipping container thingy going out, which, should it spill, has obliterated absolutely anything that lives. And top left is BYD shipping their cars to anywhere but America, because America told them they didn't want them to come to their place. So I don't know how you feel when you look at this picture, but none of the options are good. None of them. And when you really drill, that was a pun intended, into the data about oil mining, oil refining, oil transportation, oil inefficiency. This is a little chart which I'll get sent out later. I got curious about this. I was like, oh, hang on, all those pictures look terrible. I hate this for our world. What is going on? So I looked at 2 different places that were nothing to do with transport. Forbes, money. Transport and environment, much more government funded. And I was really intrigued to see what those energy losses were through the different transmissions. So should we just stick with oil because it's bad? Should we just stick with electricity because it's bad? Whatever happens. But the electric losses from generation to using that electricity in EV is 5%. So 5% goes in the wires. It goes in they called it parasitic losses. Haven't Googled that yet. Hydrogen, 52%. Petrol and diesel, 44%. So the losses here are from electrolysis to create it, the transport, storage, and distribution. And then that diagram, as I said, I'll make sure that gets emailed out, shows all those different losses. And so the mistake here is comparing one with the other, because the cost of an EV is in the manufacturing. We know that. But they last well. They're far exceeding any of our initial projections or expectations. We've proven that you can reuse their rare earth metals that are contained within them. And when they're being used, they're highly efficient and they don't go wrong as much and also aren't polluting. So whilst the mining of cobalt is bad and lithium is bad, and the mining of, let's call it the mining, drilling, extraction, processing, storing, shipping of oil is bad, they're all bad. But the data says the batteries are better. That's as far as I got with my research. That's so hard. I mean, hats off to trying, right? Like, that's a pioneering person that thought, let's give this a go. And I think this comes back to my previous point. It just isn't ready yet for that. You know, it's not yet. This will make you sick, honestly. The EHGV space is doing well. It's exactly what you just said. I've got a very dear friend, Paul Kirby, the van man. I know, the van man. He is just tearing what he's got left of it hair out all the time, because he feels very much like the vans are being left behind. We kind of concluded that it's going to need the funding, of course. For passenger vehicles and even EHGVs now, there is countless choice of vehicles that you can order and buy and wait for if they're not available now. Vans are still a tough one. and the range is still tough. And we did this absolutely insane EV rally of Scotland, and I was driving a van with a cooling, refrigerating thing on the top. And I found somewhere to charge. Mustn't laugh, really. I did find somewhere to charge, and I couldn't go in because it had a barrier over the top, which didn't show on the app as being a problem. So I'm there going, yeah, hi, Barry. And I'm just saying, what? So I drove off to Skye, which is quite far, and found another charger and eventually got charged. And we all congregated in Ullapool. And, we broke Ullapool. The harbour master was trying to connect vehicles to 3-pin plugs because we weren't going to make it to the end destination. And we just went, this is 2021. How is this a thing? You know, we had a fleet of Polestar cars and Tesla cars and other cars and fancy cars and cars and cars and cars and cars. Cars were fine. Us vans were really struggling. But this year on the EV rally, which, as I said before, is a demonstration piece. It's a risky game to play. We had prototype pickup trucks that can tow. We had 4 different types of vans, including the new Horizon van, which is you've had a Horizon with an F. I've got a list, but yeah, Horizon van. We had the world's first EHGV last year, has now put 250 of them on the road this year, having tested them on the rally. So the only word I can think of is time and patience. So can our grid cope, and is it truly clean? Well, I really spent far too much time on this slide and finally eventually found a graphic. So if you ask National Grid, do we have enough power? They are naturally going to say, yes. Now, for my sins, I'll just read it out. For my sins, I volunteer for the Customer Connections Committee, which really sounded like speed dating. It wasn't. It is about the number of villages and projects that are getting connected to the wider grid. And it's terrifying in there because they're all speaking science language and I'm speaking consumer language, and I'm trying to tell them that there's huge fleet operators who really, really do want to go EV, and guess what? They've got the funding, and guess what? They've got the partners, and they're ready to roll. And they're told, well, it's going to be 10 years. You've got to wait 10 years for your grid connection. And by the way, it'll be a couple of mil. Have you factored that in? Their plight is that people don't tell them that they're planning all this stuff. So it's a two-way street. The question isn't, do we have enough power? That is the wrong question. The question is the transmission ready? Can we get the power we are generating to where it needs to go? We're so lucky in the UK to have invested heavily in our power systems. Really advanced cities around the world have blackouts every day. We're so lucky. I never knock the grid. Now, what we're trying to do, though, is to reduce the pressure on the grid. So if there are fleet operators or managers in depots, particularly, who want to put solar and battery storage in, that's a financial situation. So we'll help them to fund and buy those things to just stop that being such a huge connection to the grid. There's hope around vehicle to grid, around the vehicles becoming little mobile power packs that we can rely on. Oh, let's keep jumping around. The reason is we need to think carefully about the time of consumption as well. There was that old fear that everyone puts the kettle on during EastEnders, and we see that support coming through rewards, consumer behaviour benefits. If you charge a car between 5 and 7 in the morning, we'll do it for free. If you do a Sunday midday charge, we'll do it for free. Oh look, there's peak demand, we'll do it for free. I don't know if you know of Octopus, but Greg, who is the founder of Octopus, is an incredible person. There's a 14-minute episode from the BBC, Decisions That Made Us, and I didn't know this about him, but he turned down a 7-figure salary to set up Octopus because he cares. And what he saw was this beautiful vision where data and software can help consumers to have free energy. What a moral debate that is. And Octopus now are an incredible energy company where they will proactively contact you to say, plug your car in now, put your thing on now, go for it, do it now. And all the others are following in their wake. So EDF, Scottish Power, a lot of them. They want, there's penalties. Do you realise that if you generate too much renewable energy, there's penalties? So they want you to take that energy off the grid, please. So there's a penalty if they don't get rid of it. So any of us who charge at home, which is great, we're this much of the vehicle fleet. The ones who charge in depots will have EHGV. And EHGV is 5 cars, by the way, and it recharges twice a day. So, you know, you're looking at a 10x, like 10 times difference between the number of kilowatt hours that go into a normal car and our little problems versus a distribution system. And, you know, that doesn't even include buses and small vans. So the grid will cope. I agree. The onus should be on the landowner. I've said this for years. One of my passion projects is connecting community energy, so trying to find someone that's willing to sponsor some kind of battery storage and solar generation stuff that can be sort of directly pumped into homes. We've seen it nearby at the Energy from Waste facility, 22,000 homes powered by the thing that everyone hates on the M5. But it's the future of what we've got to think about. It's called microgrids. It's tough. We import a lot of energy. One of the world's first undersea pipelines, well, I call it pipeline, wire, went from Norway straight into the northeast. That's one of the biggest advancements we've made. And that and again, is just another example of how we're not short of power. We can import it, we can make it, we can generate it. We had our first ever entirely non-coal or oil day last week. We average 57% clean renewable energy every single week. We have 0.04% coal-fired power stations every week. We're doing well, but yes, if we did all suddenly turn the kettle on at EastEnders again. 1 bottle of water it takes for every single search you do on AI. I don't even have it, but other people do. No, it's all connected. So yeah, there's a big water consumption issue. There is a bit, and obviously that water in our country is purified from source. So it's purified water that they're using to cool these stations. Fact. Second thing is that the energy they are generating is obviously insane, and there's no regulation at all to say they have to generate or store their own. The third thing is, good one. So you're doing heat pumps next time. I've already forgotten the date. Sorry, Mike, you did say. 7th November. Heat pumps. Now, the waste energy from those energy storage places, the data center places, are looking at how you can turn that into community energy. That's brilliant. It depends what you do with it. No, it should last a very long time. What I mean by that is there's some studies over in America about how they compared 150,000 miles of EV versus 150 miles of petrol, and EV well outlasted the petrol, so that's encouraging. Oh, that's no different to any other car. Warranties is warranty. Yeah, they've just drawn a line in the sand. Your car will long last that. The community transport piece is huge. I myself have been stood at the bus stop, seeing people I know like going off to Woods and going, maybe a lift, please. I think it starts at school. I think a lot of us drop our kids, I don't, a lot of us drop our kids off at school in cars. And the kid grows up in a nice car, and the kid grows up in a nice car going on holiday, and the kid never gets a train, never gets a National Express, never gets to live with another family, never gets a taxi. And I'm just like, wow. But no, it is professional environments. It is making it visible, easy, confident, cheap. Contactless on a bus goes a long way. A kid can tap a card and go. So I do have an electric bicycle, and I have a normal bicycle, and I have lots of bicycles. I use my electric bike instead of a short car journey, controversial, because I can wear what I want, so I'm not going to be sweating because that bad boy's going in gear 5. And the effort is just gone. It's so much fun. So I used to hire a desk in Focus in Dursley, but it's been taken over by someone else. It's a very short journey. And yes, it's double the time to drive versus ride, but it was so much fun to ride the electric bike. So I think people are viewing electric bicycles slightly cruelly. I think they're thinking, no, be old school and go ahead. But you can take the battery under your desk. You can take it into the house. I just plug mine in the garage with a 3-pin plug and it's fully charged. Oh, that'd be a tough one. I know from a commercial perspective, EV car clubs are really dictated by usage opportunity, and it's all done by GIS sort of data layering and whether or not there's driveways in existence. And it's going to be unusual for a 3-car household to suddenly go, well, I don't need 3 now because I've got a car club on the doorstep. It's kind of the other way around. If you've got 1 car but you need 2, you might not quest to buy the second, and I'm afraid it is that way round. But that's great because the bit that you missed earlier, Gavin, we're talking a little bit about how transport is, number one, highly emotive, and it's people's choices that we're messing with. But more than that, it's that you are connecting people to places, and being able to offer someone a car club means they might get to do a short journey with a car. The difficulty I find with car clubs, though, is that you can't leave them there. You have to book it for like the day and bring it back. So it works if you're going to nip to Sainsbury's and back or run someone to the station or whatever, but it gets pretty expensive if you're going to need it all day. So I would encourage car clubs to think about sort of quite permanent leases, 2-3 weeks at a time, or the summer holidays or whatever. So yeah, we're having worked with the local authorities who were putting car clubs in for some years. It's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell. Wootton doesn't strike me as a car club place, but we can go into the data on that again. We will. Number one, my Tesla weighs the same as its same class. So I've got a big fat SUV, Tesla Model Y. It weighs 1.98 tons. That's no different to another £55,000 SUV that's petrol or diesel. The government has released a grant that if you're buying a vehicle under £37,000, you can have £3,500 off. So it becomes a little more palatable. I do not own my EVs. I have never owned my EVs. I lease my EVs because I want someone else to worry about the amount that pays. And I've got spreadsheets coming out my ears, and I can tell you that 3.5 years that I have my Toyota Corolla Verso 7-seater for my three kids cost me the same every year as leasing. So the weights are the same, the price is the same, the cost is the same, the lease is the same, the resale value's cruel, but then high-priced cars always go by 50%. So what I'm hoping for is that we continue to move down the path of vehicles that are more affordable, to your point, take up less road space, always good, because those car parking spaces are not getting any bigger. And even today at the NEC, it was just an absolute wash of gorgeous company cars. And that's where the second-hand market comes from. And you've just got to think about your own personal, transport is personal, the personal budget. As for the motorbike, same thing's happening. The cost of the motorbikes are coming down. I've really got my eye on the Livewire 1. It's the Harley-Davidson's answer to electric. They've split the brands. And it's a nice bit of kit. It's a nice bit of kit. And then the range is 130, 140 miles. So, pretty similar to my petrol friends. But the difference is it's DC charging. So you're gone in 14 minutes, a little bit of a recharge, and off you go. There's a lot of divided opinion about them because they're not considered cool. I think that's the battle I've always had with bicycles as well. But ultimately, these little quadricycles get the same kind of attention, whereas BMW's petrol and diesel thing looks exactly the same as the E-equivalent thing. So they're really going in for the traditional driver but changing the transmission. So there is a movement for that. And when you buy a phone, you make a choice between are you an Apple person with like mega mad functionality or you're an Android person with equivalent mega mad functionality. Everyone has their own camp. So transport hierarchy is about you should always try to walk or cycle first. And if you can't do that, is there any public transport or car share sort of community transport option? If you can't do that, then you may need to maybe call a cab or drive. And that's where the sort of pollution indices is directly linked. And as I said it again, I'll say it again, if we replace every single internal combustion engine with an electric vehicle, we've already failed because we are still experiencing congestion. We're still experiencing the ill health that the sedentary lifestyle that an individual vehicle brings. We're still not being sociable and giving each other lifts and looking after each other. There's many societal factors linked into our vehicle choices. Many. It's exciting. With it. And Yate has long had a secure bike storage system. You have to apply for it and then you get your key and then it's yours for a period of time. Absolutely brilliant, and such a low cost effort way to make sure that more and more people are on the roads with bikes. And I was even lucky enough to meet Prince Charles as he was then for the work that we did in Bristol for our cycling community. And the crime went down, the cycling went up, the air pollution dropped, the general well-being and health of everybody who worked in those buildings was benefiting from such a low cost thing. Makes me think about that security thing. Is it about the cameras or is it yet again about us, about the community? But I'm with you, my bike's it's precious. It's precious. Even if it got stolen and replaced, it's not the one I chose. It's a new bike. Sad. So yeah, I do feel your pain.